Chronicle of a Death Foretold is a novella published in 1981 by Nobel Peace Prize-winning author Gabriel Garcia Marquez. It is written in a pseudo-journalistic reconstruction form. The story is about the murder of Santiago Nassar by the Vicario twins for taking Angela Vicario's virginity. As a result, the story can be looked through a feminist lens, which explores how the patriarchy uses gender socialization to disempower and restrict women while placing harmful expectations on men. According to Judith Butler, gender is a series of acts which are renewed, revised, and reconsolidated through time, meaning gender is a social construct and not an actual biological concept. She also states that gender has no original and is socialized into individuals through multiple sources, but most notably community. Gender socialization is not only restricts women, but also places stressful, harmful, and sometimes unattainable expectations on men that lead to a rise in irrationality and violence in men's behavior. It can also be seen in the novella that gender stereotypes are enforced and upheld by everyone in the community. As a result, gender roles are socialized into many of the characters, and performing gender becomes an expectation and the norm. This can be seen in Chronicle of a Death Foretold, where Marquez depicts gender socialization and its effects through the characters of Angela Vicario, Santiago Nassar, and the Vicario twins.
Firstly, the text depicts gender socialization and its effects through Angela Vicario's character. While describing the Vicario household, we learned that the daughters had been reared to get married. They were taught to do screen embroidery, sew by machine, weave bone lace, wash and iron, make artificial flowers and fancy candy, and write engagement announcements. Their mother would only approach them for the custom of combing their hair before sleeping. The word reared means to raise someone but can also have animal connotations, thus implying that Angela is being farmed into her performance. Furthermore, the author uses a semantic field of femininity to emphasize this performance. Finally, the word custom suggests that women's care of their appearances is an expected norm in this society. This characterizes the mother, who socializes her children, as someone who upholds and helps reproduce patriarchal values, while the daughters, or specifically Angela, is characterized as lacking control and autonomy over herself and her actions. Thus, it is depicted that women in patriarchal societies are socialized into and thus limited to playing certain roles from a young age within their own households and lack autonomy or choice in such situations. This is supported by Sandra Bem's gender schema theory, which explains that children learn about male and female roles from the culture which they live, and that children adjust their behavior to align with the gender norms of their culture from the earliest stages of social development. This suggests that gender socialization from a young age affects the way in which a person will perform their gender. Additionally, during Angela's wedding with Biardo, the guests brought gifts for them. The groom received a convertible, while the bride was given a chest with table settings in pure gold for 24 guests. Firstly, the groom gets a gift which is self-serving, while the bride, Angela, gets a gift which is made to serve others. Furthermore, Angela's gift is connected to the traditional gender role of a housewife, while the groom's gift signifies his freedom. Thus, the gifts are used as a way to reproduce gender roles, and Angela's lack of choice in her gift indicates that such gender roles are forced upon her. Finally, the author emphasizes Angela's lack of choice, as the word received used for the groom is in active voice, while was given used for Angela is in passive voice. Thus, Angela is characterized as classically feminine and passive, while the groom is active. The setting is therefore depicted as patriarchal, and one where women are socialized to perform traditional gender roles associated with their sex, in most cases by their environment and the people in it rather than through their own decision. Hence, Angela Vicario's character depicts gender socialization and its effects.
Secondly, the text depicts gender socialization and its effects through the character of Santiago Nassar. In the beginning of the story, on page 3, the narrator says that Santiago learned at a very early age the manipulation of firearms, his love for horses, and the mastery of high-flying birds of prey. but from him he also learned the good arts of valor and prudence from his father. Through Santiago's love for horses, mastery of high-flying birds of prey, and manipulation of firearms, the semantic field of hunting and fighting is created, as it has connotations with aggressiveness. Therefore, this further emphasizes Santiago's power and highlights his masculinity. As a result of the semantic field, Santiago is depicted as powerful and classically masculine. Additionally, Santiago's dad is also characterized as classically masculine, as he teaches his son masculine traits. Consequently, the portrayal of Santiago's love for horses and his dad teaching him how to use guns is an example of gender socialization. Moreover, as Santiago is taught to fight and hunt, he could be classified as an example of hegemonic masculinity, where men should be wealthy, strong, and powerful. Furthermore, on page 2, it is mentioned by the narrator that in Santiago's closet he kept a Maniclius Schoner .30 rifle and .300 Holland and Holland Magnum rifle, a .22 Horner with double-powered telescope sight, and a Winchester repeater. He always slept the way his father had slept, with the weapon hidden in the pillowcase. The parallelism between Santiago and his father in how they sleep emphasizes socialization, as behaviors are structurally passed down in the way the sentence repeats the behavior with similar grammar. Also, the listing of the weapons and their types emphasizes the amount of weapons, heavily implying that Santiago is violent and paranoid. Additionally, Santiago and his father are characterized as hypermasculine, paranoid, and violent. As a result, the setting is shown to be patriarchal that upholds traditional gender stereotypes and enforces them. Hence, Santiago is socialized by his father to be more violent, which is linked with the masculinity of what society deems a man is. Furthermore, due to masculinity being related to violence, gender socialization leads to men becoming irrational and violent, and this behavior becoming normalized. According to Kohn, Sirbit, and Zinker, males are socialized to internalize emotions and adhere to traditional masculine gender norms, tend to have a variety of maladaptive physical and mental health outcomes, including risk-taking, impulsivity, anger, and aggression, heart disease, depression, and premature death.
Lastly, the text depicts gender socialization and its effects through the characters of the Vicario twins. When Pedro Vicario went to his brother's house, he asked that his brother's wife if he could borrow her husband's shaving implements, but he shaved with a butcher's knife instead. Armanita, his brother's wife, thought that this was the height of machoism and said that he looked like a killer from the movies. The wife had said that in the army he'd learned to shave with a straight razor and couldn't do it any other way ever since. The phrase height of machoism implies that masculinity is inherently tied to violence, and that the more violent a man is, the more manly he is perceived. Also, butcher's knife, army, and razor all create a semantic field of masculinity and violence, directly implying that masculinity is inherently tied to violence. Moreover, the phrase "a killer in the movies" implies that extreme amounts of violence is what defines masculinity in itself. It also emphasizes how extreme amounts of violence is romanticized in a man. Furthermore, the fact that Pablo Vicario couldn't change his ways from how he learned to shave in the army implies that he couldn't change how he was socialized, and it has permanently affected him. As a result, Pablo Vicario is characterized as violent and hypermasculine. Also, the setting is shown to uphold traditional gender stereotypes and enforces them through socialization. Hence, men are socialized to be violent and extreme to fit the idea of what society deems a man traditionally is. Moreover, this demonstrates how hard it is for a man to change how he learned to act, because it is ingrained in his mind and his behavior, which is expected by society through socialization, which taught him how to act in a specific heteronormative way. This heteronormative way of acting, which is socialized into men, is often just the romanticization of violence and hypermasculinity, which later on has detrimental effects on men and the people around them. According to Kilmartin, McDortman, and Smiler, family, peers, and media often reinforce the connection between aggressive behavior and masculinity. When Armaita found out that the Vicario twins are looking for Santiago Nassar to kill him, she said that they should be stopped to spare those poor boys from the horrible duty that has fallen on them. Also, because she sensed it, she was certain that the Vicario brothers were not as anxious to fulfill the sentence as to find someone who would do them the favor of stopping them. The phrase duty that has fallen on them implies that the murder has to happen and is necessary. It also implies that it's the twins' job to regain their sister's honor. Also, to spare implies that killing Santiago is a horrible, inescapable fate for the twins. Moreover, the phrase anxious to fulfill the sentence emphasizes that the twins don't want to kill Santiago, but have to, and the only way that they were not going to kill him is if someone stopped them. Also, this implies that Santiago's death has already been promised and will happen. This also has connotations with a courtroom where justice is fulfilled, implying that Santiago's death is needed to restore justice to the family. The responsibility of fulfilling this justice is the Vicario twins. As a result, the twins are characterized as stressed and under pressure. Also, the setting is shown to be patriarchal and upholds traditional gender stereotypes and enforces them. Hence, the twins have been socialized to think that, as men, it is their responsibility to protect and regain their family's honor. Also, this shows how men are put under pressure by society to take charge and responsibility for any type of situation. They are also put in charge of their family and are expected to be strong and violent. This is an example of peer group gender socialization. Because of this socialization, men become violent, irrational, and unable to ask for help. This has detrimental effects on their mental health. According to Cocheran and Robin Wiz, psychologists recognize that men are less likely than women to receive certain psychological diagnoses. Examples are depression and anxiety. Discrepancies may be due in part to gender role socialization, which impacts men's help-seeking behaviors and how they present their physical and psychological distress. Moreover, according to Moore and Stewart, many boys and men have been socialized to use aggression and violence as a means to resolve interpersonal conflict. Thus, through the characters of the Vicario twins, the text depicts gender socialization and its effects.
Hence, Marquez explores gender socialization and its effects through the characters Angela Vicario, Santiago Nassar, and the Vicario twins in Chronicle of a Death Foretold. The character of Angela Vicario presents the way in which women are socialized into fitting patriarchal ideals for how a woman should behave. Moreover, the character Santiago Nassar showed how boys get socialized by their family, and in many cases their fathers, into fitting the societal expectations of what a man should be and how this has detrimental effects on them. Lastly, the characters of the Vicario twins depict how men get socialized by their community to fit the role and expectations of what a man is and how this leads men to becoming mentally ill or violent. Therefore, it is clear that the perpetuation of gender performance through socialization in society is detrimental towards people, which is why these structures and expectations put on members of society should be dismantled and analyzed.